out there? Welcome to a Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Holes in the Hole and Sox type thing. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. You are in the hole with Major League A-Holes, episode 126. We didn't talk about this before. Do you have a jersey representation for, is this episode 28 of Sox type thing?
Yeah, sure I do. Of course.
All right, we're canceling this part of the show if this is too many weeks in a row where you are not prepared. I am actually prepared. So
is it Lou Ray Garcia?
I'm going to call this the Lou Ray Garcia show for Sox type thing. Which
seems, I think it kind of has to be because
appropriate.
We had a segment formerly for those of you who may be new to this, if there is anyone new to this.
No, there's definitely no one new.
We used to have Lou Ray the Legend, where I would read on the air some underwhelming stats from that week. Usually it had something to do with reached base once on an error.
Yeah. Fortunately, there would be no more of those. So the underwhelming stat is he was actually wore jersey number 28 for a while for the White Sox and did very little with it.
29.
All right.
That's gonna be a doozy.
Okay, let's I am canceling this part. We're not doing that.
That's good. I've been trying.
Well, part of the reason I'm very, very emotional right now is it has been a very tumultuous 24 plus hours for anyone. Yeah, anyone like myself who is a Tigers / Cubs fan, as potentially catastrophic injuries have happened to just the best players in the fucking roster of both those teams. Potentially with the Cubs, we'll see. But we'll get there in a bit. But we've also had a Tigers versus White Sox series, which we'll break down in great detail. Riveting, and it worked out really well for me. But I think it was a really crazy, entertaining series, no matter what perspective you had. Cubs had a ridiculous week where they looked like complete shit against a very mediocre team, and then they won a series against the best team in baseball. So I'm not sure how to process that. We've got plenty of Giants, Sox, and A's news to talk about. Got our badass of the week, and I'm going to throw in an aesthetics, whether you want it or not. It's happening. So
definitely don't want it.
I say we go ahead and jump into the news. Those are the ambulances heading towards Comerica Park, as within the last, I think it literally is 24 hours.
I would say like 18 hours is between the alerts, maybe.
Yeah, I think
that popped up on my phone.
Yeah, where
I was shocked. So
Matt Vierling went on the IL. Fortunately, we traded with your White Sox to get Jake Marisnick to take care of that issue.
Ooh, he's a doozy.
Unfortunately, we weren't prepared for everything else that was about to happen. Start at least with Riley Green, as we'll now need a second outfielder to come to our rescue. Riley Green somehow came down with a stress fracture of his left fibula during the game yesterday, right on the heels of Eduardo Rodriguez rupturing the A4 pulley in his left index finger. And I'm not sure about you, but I have never heard of an A4 pulley.
Oh, hey, let me tell you there, Ryan. The A4 pulley is normally used to take off the lug nut on the right radiator grill.
That makes sense. I've never heard of the body part. I've never heard of it being an injury concern or an issue with any major league pitcher. I think the whole world has been floored by this. At least the Tigers Nation has. With all that happening, obviously our best pitcher in the American League for a while, he had tailed off it slightly in the last couple of starts, followed by far our best offensive position player, Riley Green, who was finally coming into his own. He was actually the American League leader in batting average in May. He had 1,000 OPS throughout May as well. Finally coming into his own. Tigers had their first winning month in May, 16-11, first winning month since September of 2021. Things are kind of coming together, and then all of a sudden it just all went to shit. The amazing thing is they won the game today against the the Rangers with all that as a backdrop, such, just terrible news, negativity. Somehow they pulled it out. Marisnik actually had a great game, so I want to thank you guys for trading him to the Tigers from the White Sox for the most often traded player, cash considerations. Jerry Reinsdorf must have needed some walking around money. So
yeah, maybe for that new network.
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually. I'm curious about that. I want to hear your thoughts on that. But so yeah, it's been a roller coaster for the Tigers. They lost a series, of course, to the Rangers, who are arguably the second best team in baseball. Just an offensive juggernaut. They score runs.
Yeah, this is what they were supposed to be doing last year, and it's all clicked this year.
Yeah, it's clicking. Their lineup is the scariest I've seen this year, I think, by far, even more than the Rays. But wow, Tigers actually pulled it out. They today, at least, they didn't get swept. They did lose the series 2-1, but so yeah, I was impressed with that effort, a full team effort, as Tigers are leading the majors in pinch hitters, at least. They're among the leaders in pinch hits themselves, but AJ Hinch is doing everything he can to move the roster around in game, before game, post game, whenever he has to get the best matchups. And that's actually been working as he tries to piece this together. He's going to have to be piecing together even more with the rotation and the bullpen as we move forward.
Yeah, I saw in the Sox series, I think there were at least 2 games where he had a pinch hitter in like the 5th inning just because for the matchup.
That's every day. That's how he has to play it. And I love it. It keeps you on your toes, paying attention to who's in and out of the lineup. But I think the players love it too. And it's really what they have to do to maximize every at bat.
Yeah, it's obviously working to some degree.
To some degree, yeah. Hovering. Tigers were within 1 game of the Twins at one point this weekend for first place in the AL Central, believe it or not. That has kind of fallen away a bit, although I think the Twins are playing later tonight, so it might be, I think they're 2 games back, or maybe a game and a half back right now. So that could close up to a game again, which would be,
they are a game and a half back. You're correct.
That would be amazing somehow this deep into the season to have the Tigers still relevant.
Well, when your first place team with a loss tonight is 500,
gotta love the AL Central.
We're all in it. We're all in it.
There is some
bad we are.
Yeah, on the injury front, there has been some good news that Tigers fans can grasp onto, at least. Tarik Skubal finished his final live BP session this week.
Oh, nice.
Which is the final step before doing a rehab assignment.
Well, that's good news.
He was reaching 98 miles per hour. The whole team was actually watching his last live BP, and everyone was thoroughly impressed and couldn't believe his spot on location beyond the velocity, which is really encouraging. If he does a rehab assignment, I believe the rules are he can only be there for 20 days. So that sounds like in the next couple of weeks, we might be seeing Tarik Skubal if all things go well, which couldn't happen a moment too soon with the Erod news. So just a crazy time. There's reasons to be positive, reasons to be really freaked out, but hell, man, this has been a really fun season regardless. So again, the first winning month that we've had in a year and a half. So that's why it's been a lot more interesting. Tigers have been doing it by controlling the strike zone. Have you heard me say that before? Have you heard any of the Tigers say that before?
I hear you say it every week, and on every broadcast there's controlling the strike zone.
You got to see it in action as you were forced to witness it as your White Sox traveled to Detroit this weekend. And boy, did the Tigers ever control the strike zone over 4 games against your White Sox. We had Thursday game 1, 7-2 win for the Tigers. I believe at least Alex Faedo, the starter, had 13 strikeouts and 0 walks. Game 2, very different story, and I'm sure you're going to want to talk about that a lot more than the other games, but 12-3 win for your Sox. Saturday and Sunday were basically
they were bangers, man. They were great games.
Really crazy entertaining games. Both worked out for Tigers fans, much to my delight. But it basically came down to your bullpen. We took advantage late in both those games to come back from deficits late in the 7th inning or later. So
I would say the final game is a little bit Riley Greene and a little bit Luis Robert. Luis Robert, if he makes the play correctly on the ball, which means just keeps it in front of him, the White Sox probably win the game. If Riley Greene doesn't jump up over the wall and rob Jake Burger on his 415-foot out, then the Sox win the game that way too. So it was both center fielders, but Riley Greene, incredible fucking play, fantastic. Luis Robert, what the fuck are you doing? Like, there's no reason you're not going to make the catch, especially where he started sliding from. Why even do it? Like, I know he's trying to make a play because he had no hits in the series. So he's trying to make a play, like make a difference somehow. I get how that gets to you mentally, but dude, you're a Gold Glover, man. You're having a Gold Glove year. Don't make a bonehead mistake like that and cost your team a would-be split. So
I feel like the Tigers have to do every little thing correctly to win series like that, and they happen to do that this weekend. Things had to go their way, of course, too. But the main thing, again, controlling the strike zone. They drew 30 walks over the weekend against you guys and only gave up 8 on the other side of it. So that is the definition of controlling the strike zone, which just getting that much traffic on base just created enough opportunities, even though the Tigers are have the worst average for runners in scoring position in the majors. So, but when you have that much traffic, eventually something's going to come through. So, with the finest margins, a 3-1 series victory win. It was much closer than that actually sounds even. So,
I mean, I was impressed with, like, I'm trying to understand the Tigers in that I know it's coming down from the front office, from your new GM, that they are to control the strike zone. Now, I don't know why any team wouldn't have attempted that in the past, but whatever.
That's why I make fun of it, because it's, of course, everyone tries to control the strike zone, but it's the methods that we're not hearing about that actually are getting that done. So,
and you have the same coaching staff as last year, and offensively, somewhat of the same player makeup. So what I don't understand is how they suddenly were seeing Dylan Cease good enough on Sunday to not swing at any of his moving pitches out of the zone. And then secondly, this stat's fucking insane. I think they had 21 2-strike foul balls.
That's a big part.
Want to be able to extend a pitcher and get him out of the fucking game.
And frustrate and piss him off too.
Yeah. And like there were 2 pitchers frustrated in that series. One was definitely Dylan Cease, in that he couldn't put anyone away in a team that he's used to being able to put away. So you understand his frustration. And he actually had
10-1 in his career.
And I think he was undefeated at Comerica. It was the loss was at home, I believe. I could be mistaken there, but I thought that was the case. And then Lucas Giolito was frustrated, but the ump frustrated Lucas Giolito that night with a rule that got unearthed that I wasn't even aware of, that the pitcher cannot be engaged to pitch to the batter unless the batter is ready in the box.
We saw that earlier this year, and I forget who it happened to. It wasn't any of our teams, but there's a loophole. I forget who was using it, but where they would actually have 1 foot in the box and 1 foot out of the box. And actually, it was Kenley Jansen, I think, from, is he with the Braves now?
Yeah.
They actually lost a game because he got burned on that twice in the 9th. And it's literally, he saw the guy in box looking at him, but they had 1 foot out, and he would start his motion, and they would call a ball on him. And that's what I think, that's almost the exact same thing that was happening to Giolito. it's up to every pitcher to know that rule, and I think that's going to get exploited as much as possible. It's going to go away as soon as the pitchers just realize what's going on and don't let it happen anymore. But yeah, the visible frustration from Giolito was palpable, but that's the rule. I mean, it wasn't like a misinterpretation.
No, I just had never seen it before, so
yeah,
I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever see Giolito fall for that again, but it definitely got to. I'm surprised it burned him more than once, actually. Like maybe he didn't fully understand what was going on, or he was starting to get pissed and let emotions take over. But yeah, it was definitely odd.
Yeah, it's a little tricky because it makes sense though. If he's got 1 foot out of the box, he's not engaging. He has until the 8-second mark to become engaged. So
yeah, they're exploiting a little bit of a loophole, but it's it's pretty simple for pitchers to adjust to it.
Pitchers have
attention.
There's loopholes a little bit both ways. I mean, we never talked about it, but a few weeks ago, Corbin Burns knew that someone was going to steal on the pitch, and he literally held the ball to 1 second and threw over to first and got the guy caught in a rundown.
Yeah,
because the obviously he's going to take off with 1 second on the clock because the pitcher has to engage, but he engaged he disengaged and threw to the first baseman. So I like that, and I also like I just didn't know about that rule until I saw it, but I like that there are these rules like that allow a little bit of strategic playing to come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everyone's just sort of feeling out, trying to push the envelope to the edges of these new rules to find out what they can get away with and what they can't. I guess I'm just a little bit surprised this is still being experimented with. We're at the end of April. Tomorrow will be June 1st. I thought we'd see that a lot more in April, not in May. But yeah, I mean, we're still seeing it clearly, but I think we're going to see less of that as everyone's, they're going to figure out those edges, and I think we'll see less and less of those strange calls that kind of turn the momentum of the game.
Yeah. What's interesting too is, I don't know if you noticed, but guys who normally adjusted their back gloves and all that still have more than enough time to do all that shit. Yeah. So it's not like oh, Paul Konerko would have never survived. Yeah, he would have actually probably just fine. I watch it, when you watch it closely, there's some guys who are just like, fuck it. My new regime is my new the routine. Way I'm working. Routine. Yeah. Thank you. Not regime. My new routine is I'm going to just get in the batter's box and go and be ready to go. Yeah. And they're trying to control the pitcher in a way too by doing that. Pitchers will counter, and Joe Kelly does it all the time. He will literally stand there on the mound and hold the ball until 1 second is on the clock, before he engages. So well, I like the cat and mouse of it all. It's been interesting.
Yeah, I like it too. You did just bring up Joe Kelly, who had been lights out.
Oh my God, I was shocked.
And the Tigers absolutely lit him up 2 games in a row, which was hard to believe. And a little bit controversial that Pedro Grifol brought him in the second game after being obliterated the game before. So I always hesitate to criticize managers for their bullpen usage because there's always information we're not privy to, especially when it's a team I'm not following as closely as my teams. But I don't know if you had any thoughts. I know it's a topic on Sox Twitter, but
yeah, well, everything's a topic on fucking Sox Twitter.
We'll get there too.
We'll get there in a little bit. But Pedro has a philosophy, which he brought up earlier this year, and it worked in his favor. Ronaldo Lopez had a really bad outing, and he put him on the mound the next night, and he went 1, 2, 3. And his idea is to try to get the pitcher. I don't recall the situation exactly. Was it the lower third of your order by any chance, or?
Boy, I don't remember.
Yeah,
now,
but he tends to try to bring them out when it's like more like a 7, 8, and 9 situation.
That's the thing. There's so many variables to it other than just looking at the results. Well, why the fuck did you do that? They lost the game again. So it's just easy. It's easy to play those results.
Yeah. No. And he may. I don't. Like I said, I can't recall the situation, but
I think it's.
He likes to get them right back out there again. get the confidence right back up. So when he's needed again in a key leverage situation, but the game was close, so it was still a key leverage situation. No matter, you can't just dismiss the 7, 8, and 9 hitters. They are on a major league roster, folks. So,
exactly.
And all the managers out there listening, because I know you guys all tune in. We've seen this podcast change lineups before.
Yes, the power of the a-holes.
But yeah. So I don't disagree with his method there, but again, then you can really shatter confidence. There's a backfire to it, like we saw. Like I think Joe Kelly's
he's a veteran.
He'll long enough. He's fine.
He'll get over it. And also, getting the hell out of Detroit will probably help him as well. So
yeah. So, but you know what? Having like the sort of lopsided games to open it up, and then I had said in a serious manner, it was going to be a split.
We both agreed actually it was going to be a 2-2 split. So
and it was almost that, but
it was very close. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what happens this weekend back at the rate.
Yeah, Detroit visits Chicago right away this weekend, so that you might be able to get your revenge rather quickly. We'll see, especially with our depleted both front end of the rotation and our best offensive player.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes the way the KC trip went, we went 1-3 in KC and then swept them at home. I'm not saying we're gonna sweep you guys.
Your record is significantly better at home, yet you're still
it is.
You're still below 500 at home
by a game. Yes.
Or is it 2 games now after this afternoon?
Oh yeah, 2 games after this afternoon. You're right. Yeah,
after
this afternoon's drubbing of 12-5.
Hey, you're blocking your microphone with your hands.
Thanks, Lance Lynn, for that great performance this afternoon in a 12-5 beating.
Yeah, I just picked him up in our fantasy league, so yeah, thanks, Lance.
Yeah, I'm not
sure why I did that, but
I mean, are we transitioning into the White Sox fully now, or do you have any Detroit closing remarks?
I'm sure I'll throw something in here and there, but yeah, you can go ahead with your White Sox.
So, before we get into probably the biggest news of the week for the White Sox, I do want to talk about Lance Lynn for a second. And obviously, anyone will tell you ask any team what they'll tell you. We need pitchers, right? If manager, what do you want at the All-Star break? You want pitchers, but I think the White Sox really need to consider. It's gonna sound crazy, but like going some different route that doesn't involve Lance Lynn.
Wow.
At least Lance Lynn as a starter. It's too unpredictable. And good hitters, Jose Ramirez's, Mike Trout's, Shohei Ohtani's, they all hit home runs off of him. He doesn't have
he definitely got Trouted and Ohtani today. I think Trout had 1, Ohtani had 2 blasts. I didn't see the final box score,
and he just doesn't have, and it started last year. Like I never pitch around Jose Ramirez. He owns you. He never would. I was at 2 games where they lost because he was pitching to Jose Ramirez in like the 6th and 7th inning of games he was still in instead of working around him. And I love the bulldog attitude. I love Lance Lynn. I love his attitude. I think he's a charismatic guy, but
he's a slapdick motherfucker. How can you not?
Right. But maybe he's a slapdick motherfucker in the bullpen or something. Like they need another quality starter in there. Thankfully Clevenger will be back soon, but
wow.
Yeah, I mean,
never thought you'd be saying that.
But he's had a very solid year for us. So
well, Lance obviously got off to a horrific start. He had turned it around for 3 or 4 starts in a row until today, including the 1 game he won in Detroit. He was great. So that's why I thought he had turned a corner. Maybe he was just getting used to the pitch clock, getting back in shape, so to speak.
Yeah, he had some salads.
Yeah, but yeah, that was clearly not the case today.
Yeah, I wonder how many of his turnarounds were when we started playing the AL Central. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, that's when I was looking at splits today for our teams, and literally like all of our winning records except the Tigers are 2-0 against the Giants this year, but like all of our winning records are against our own division.
Yeah, Tigers are 11-5 against the National League, so that's where they've got.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
but yeah, certainly not against the AL East. I don't remember what it was against the West, but
I'm thinking, like, looking at the AL Central for a quick second, like it's going to be whatever team can actually win some games outside the division at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Because
there's so many more games being played outside of the division this year. We're going from, I think there's only 52, 54 games in the division this year. So there's over 100 outside, which was not the case until now. So
yeah,
that's gonna reshape things dramatically as well.
Yeah, it's something I talked about right at the beginning of the year, that any team that was built to win its division was going to be in trouble because they had to win. In order to win their division, they had to win outside of their division.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But there's always a little bit of good news within all the bullshit that is known as the Chicago White Sox. And Liam Hendriks made his triumphant return to the mound on what that was.
I think that was Monday night.
Monday night. I'm all screwed up with the day off from work on what day it is.
It's confusing. Plus, the Tigers White Sox was a 4-game series but then the weekend kept going, so it was just weird.
It was very strange.
Don't blame yourself.
He came back on Monday. He got the full treatment, the lights off, flashing, "We Will Rock You" mix with Rage Against the Machine that he comes into. It's aggressive. And he had an okay outing. I mean, one of the hits that led to a run probably had an exit velocity of about 60 miles an hour. So it was a bloop into no man's land. It was obviously a very emotional day for him.
Yeah.
And just seeing him back out on the mound was amazing to me at how quickly it happened.
Was that the save situation in the 9th? Is that where they put him?
No, he came in it wasn't a save situation. The Sox were losing by 1 at that point.
Okay.
He let up 2 runs in the 8th.
I see. I was thinking it'd be kind of odd just to throw him into the highest of leverage situations. So that makes a little more sense.
He could really only, which is common when someone hasn't played a lot, he could locate his fastball pretty fine, but slider was a little bit non-competitive. But he was actually a bloop single hit a little harder, and Tim Anderson keeping a ball in his glove. That was an amazing, like, how high Tim Anderson can leap. Play a way of not allowing a run in that game. So, I mean, I'll take it. Right. I think he's a boost. I think he's a boost to the energy of the team in general.
And
he's a welcome sight for the bullpen. So, we'll see how it plays out. He may not be like full capacity, like 98 miles an hour for, another like 3 weeks or so, but
I would think it would take a couple weeks, but
he was up 2 more miles per hour in his game 96 than he was in his last spring training game, which is 94. So it's a good sign. I mean, it's great to have him back. It was I didn't care what the results were going to be. I just thought it was great to see him out on the mound.
It would have been cool to just see him go 1, 2, 3 and
it would have
returning hero, but it's not like it ruined the story necessarily that he wasn't top of his game, because it's pretty understandable considering everything he's been through. So just great to see him back on the field. That was like the best story of baseball this weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, but you know what, Smitty, though, it wasn't good enough for White Sox Twitter. Nope, sure wasn't. And we're going to unearth a Sox type thing segment called the Tweet Bag, and I'm going to go into it. But some of the stuff was, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read anything verbatim, but I'm going to summarize. There's a whole group of White Sox Twitter that decided that they should be down on Liam Hendriks because of his poor performance and how he had no business pitching in that ball game. He's not ready to be back. What are the White Sox doing? This is the worst organization in baseball. Liam, get off the field.
Oh boy.
Like, you remember my rant from a few weeks ago? Seriously.
I do.
Like, most miserable group of fucking fans on the planet. Not I shouldn't say everyone. I mean, but there's a large contingency that can't enjoy anything. I don't even know if they enjoy wins anymore. Like being a lifelong Sox fan, and even when they're having a bad season, when they win a game, I'm happy. I'm in a good mood, even if it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It puts me in a good mood.
Good enough for you to put on a White Sox basketball jersey today.
That's right, baby. It's all going. This is a sweep of Detroit this weekend because of this jersey.
Everyone not really. YouTube and Facebook will be regaled by your outfit. It's something, folks. If you're just listening to the podcast, you should check out YouTube, or maybe you shouldn't. Maybe I should.
Maybe we
warning you not to check out the video portion.
This is how we get canceled. Me wearing this jersey,
potentially.
So I just wanted to call out, as I did a few weeks ago, White Sox Twitter and White Sox fans who can appreciate what Liam Hendriks has gone through and what it meant for him to be on the mound that night, to just fucking go away. Go be a Cubs fan.
Just proves, it just proves that, Twitter is a cesspool, and White Sox Twitter is subject to that
as sussy as it gets.
Yeah, I don't know how to quantify that, but I think in general, I think all of us have toxic. There are portions of everyone's fan base that are toxic. That is certainly an example of a toxic Twitterverse for you White Sox.
Yeah, that is.
If you can't celebrate the return of Liam Hendriks despite the results, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I don't know what to do either. But there's more. There's good news. There's more. Let's get the vibes up again. Eloy Jimenez returned. I know Smitty was worried. Smitty was worried about it.
I'm worried he's in right field every day, but apparently that's working out for now.
I can answer that to a degree, in that now I find this funny that all through his life and other organizations he was with, well, only one other organization, but all through minor leagues with the White Sox too, through the minor leagues of two systems, I'm assuming when he was younger, he played all over the place, but he says, I just see the ball better in right. It's more natural for me. And he has
keep putting him in left.
He's not, I know, right? Like, he hasn't done anything like bonehead wise yet.
He does actually look much more comfortable. You can see it. He doesn't look like a disaster every time he's going after a ball, right? So there's
like,
how could nobody notice that until just now? Like, what the fuck have all these organizations been doing? Cubs included. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, he's been a left fielder since the minors with the Cubs, the minors with the Sox, and it's like, I know, I like right better. I see the ball better off the bat. Okay,
has he not communicated that? Maybe that's on Eloy. Hey, stop putting me the fuck out here. Let me be in right, and I'll be fine. It's
more fun to make fun of the team for being idiots. I mean, look at their record. Maybe I'll go with the team in this case.
Yeah. The evidence is piling up.
But Eloy did not skip a fucking beat. He extended his hitting streak today, going 1 for 5. That's a 12-game hitting streak, extending from the injury.
Oh, wow.
His first 4 games back, he has hit safely in all of them.
Nice. Including
a home run in the bottom of the 9th of the Angels game that would have been tied up if Liam had a clean inning. So that was
on Monday. Okay.
Yeah, that's where it hurt a little bit, but good to see him back. The lineup is definitely different with him in it, especially when he is making solid contact and getting on base. But yeah, I mean, for the White Sox, I don't know. We're gonna get to what they should do in a couple of points when we get to some sexual harassment. But two things I wanted to touch upon before that quickly. We have an Elvis situation developing. We have the surgence of the much praised in the minor leagues, Romy Gonzalez on the White Sox.
We're going to get to Romy in a bit when he gets our badass of the week.
And we have Elvis Andrus coming off of the IL. What are the Sox to do?
That's interesting.
It's a very sticky situation. I want to say you part ways with Elvis or make him just a backup?
I forget what kind of deal did you sign with him?
And it's a 1-year deal.
Just 2 weeks before the season started.
Yeah. He wanted to play. I mean, he's been fine glove wise, and he's a great backup when Timmy doesn't play. And shit, maybe he should be the starting shortstop at this point. But his bat is just not there, as we talked about preseason. Like, what did you really expect from him? And my quote was, I think, something not what he did at the end of the season last year. And
it would be impossible. I mean, that was one of the best stretches of his career, or at least his recent career, what he did at the end of last season.
But it's interesting. The Sox are going to have a decision to make on who gets sent down, and you cannot, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, send Romy Gonzalez back down. So, one interesting tidbit popped up on the wire that came into my feed. Jerry Reinsdorf appears to be making his move to take the White Sox and possibly the Bulls, I'm assuming, into their own sports network in 2024.
Yeah, this showed up in my feed as well. I think it would also include the Blackhawks potentially, sort of like as a replacement for NBC Sports Chicago, as far as the way I read it. But
yeah, I'm just so the contract for NBC Sports Chicago is up in 2024. So I'm assuming that, and just let me back up a minute, Reinsdorf took over a controlling share of Stadium Sports Network. So that basically gives him a already established broadcaster that would allow them probably the ownerships. So him and Rocky Wirtz to create their own sports network where they could get all of the money.
What I read is he was part founder of it. He just didn't have a controlling interest until this week. So he's maneuvered that where he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it now. So that's very interesting, the timing of that, for a couple of reasons, considering he's 87 years old. Is he 88 yet?
Whatever.
And still doing business. He's certainly not retired or sitting on his couch someplace.
Although we wish.
He's looking to the future. But this comes on the heels of even yesterday, the announcement that the San Diego Padres specifically their games are no longer being covered by Bally Sports, who their parent company owns most of baseball's regional sports networks across the country. That doesn't affect Chicago at all, but Detroit's one of the teams that all their games are broadcast on Bally Sports, but their parent company is in bankruptcy. And the first team we've seen actually have games not being broadcast was after, I think, Tuesday night. So today would have been the first day. Of course, MLB stepped in and is taking over production. So essentially there's no difference. They're going to just hire all the same on-camera crew that Padres fans would be used to. But you can now get San Diego fans can now get, even in market, they can subscribe to the MLB TV for $20 a month and get typically blacked out games locally. They will now be not blacked out. So I see what Jerry's doing kind of in a larger context, as it looks like the largest entity that has been responsible for all these blackout restrictions that have been ridiculous over the years.
Right.
People can't stream their own games in their local markets. That's kind of crumbling, because that's just those RSNs have been controlling that. They want to force you to pay for cable subscriptions and not stream. And I think Jerry is being very shrewd by making this move right now. It's just unbelievable that it's happening the same week where the Padres are actually just got their broadcasting taken over by Major League Baseball. I think there are 13 teams that are going to be affected eventually. Right now, it looks like the Guardians are one of those that could potentially get pulled in by Major League Baseball, as essentially the parent company of Bally's is just not making their payments to the Major League teams for their rights. So
good Lord.
Yeah, it's a huge legal fiasco, but so I think that might inform this news that you're hearing about Stadium there in Chicago. It's the parent company is called Diamond Sports Group, but they're also involved with Sinclair, which we've brought up many times because they have an ownership stake in the Marquee Network. So I think we might be hearing similar news where the Cubs buy out the controlling interest, or maybe all of the interest, in Marquee Network in a similar manner, where everyone's going to have their own rights to broadcast and not be beholden to any larger cable entity, regional sports network. So I just stepped all over your segment there, but I thought that was relevant at least.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I'm leaving.
Thank you.
Kidding. But yeah, you said it all. And I think, this is also on the heels of Disney announcing that ESPN is beginning to look at moving to a subscription-based service for ESPN, which
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I have ESPN Plus, but I cannot view ESPN without logging in through Robin's DirecTV subscription.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So that'll be the biggest blow that cable providers and satellite providers will get, because once that happens, that's the network that's keeping people in cable subscription.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is there's good news and bad news. I think we're going to have 1 million subscriptions to be able to watch all the games around. Hopefully MLB TV at least can be a unifier where you can see all the games with 0 blackout restrictions. And that's the good news of it. The only barrier to us having blackout restrictions removed are those RSNs and the cable companies.
Yep.
So as these continue to fail, those barriers are going to be released. And Major League Baseball, as dumb as they have been in their times, and I even saw people tweeting this today, smart people, I was kind of surprised, didn't fully understand the ramifications. They're making fun of MLB that that the Padres were no longer on their RSN as of today. Well, that's not MLB. MLB is all for this. They're ready to swoop in, take those rights back, and then be able. They're not interested in having blackouts for anybody. They do want people to watch their games, believe it or not. It's the RSNs that have been the hurdle in that, for the reasons I pointed out before. So I think this is good news. Unfortunately, it's going to mean we're just have more and more different subscriptions in general, but at least it gives you the power to pay for what you want, the content that you're actually looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if ESPN goes subscription, there'll be no need. Robin will definitely probably cancel the DirecTV subscription, and we will literally watch the Sox have to go somewhere too. But
that's the thing. I think you could just go to stadiumnetwork.com and buy your annual subscription, and then
so if that happens, I'm going to basically subscribe to 5 channels and save a shit ton of money.
You'll have Disney Plus, and that covers that, and then specific baseball. So that's all I'm trying to think of me. I definitely would have the MLB package. I would subscribe. I don't even watch that much ESPN, so I don't know how much that would affect me other than the national games, which if baseball was smart, they would wrap those into the MLB TV subscription as well. So the unfortunate part of all of this is we can kind of see it, what potentially could or should happen. I think it's still going to play out over years as lawsuits will drag on. But
yeah, we're two, probably
I'd say 2.
three,
Yeah. But I am still shocked that, this broke this week that the Padres games are no longer on their RSN. They're with MLB now. So that I didn't anticipate.
All right. So one last thing to talk about that I think you'll enjoy. One of our
I think you have is this a little sexual harassment?
That's right. One of our flagship segments, sexual harassment. And good news, everyone, Rick Hahn is alive and he met with the press.
I was worried there for a minute.
He did his uncomfortable drinking of water as he always does in weird moments. And he just, yes, exactly, Smitty. He goes and sometimes makes and then begins to answer the question. It's a bizarre usage, but it's what we love about Rick, one of the one and only things at this point. But they asked him, a reporter asked him specifically about what are you going to do with this team, basically? What's your point? It's Memorial Day. That's a key time where you start discussing what direction the team is going. And I would say probably in true White Sox fashion, this is how Rick Hahn responded. Sitting here Memorial Day, the first 2 months have not been up to the level that we wanted it to be. Really?
Yeah.
We get that. It's not acceptable. Could that one day lead to changes over the course of the season? Absolutely. Then he went on to add, but for now, this is a group that is now hopefully coming together as a full unit, and we'll see how it performs over the next several weeks before we have to make that decision. And then he went on to say, which I don't have down here, but he did say, he's like, July 4th will be the next check-in.
So he's like,
it's only major holidays.
Yeah.
Yes, he's on the holiday check-in schedule.
I was thinking it might be a little bit sooner than that, possibly Flag Day on June 14th, which you could potentially call White Flag Day.
Oh!
Like what I did there?
Juneteenth too is coming up right on the heels of that. So
true, there's lots of holidays in June.
In between, dude.
You never know when the White Sox fate could be decided.
Yeah, and he'll get out his I don't know what I was gonna say. Anyway,
that's all right.
Yeah. I mean, here's my thoughts. I'm fine with saying till July 4th, but if it truly comes that they're going to have a winning May 17-12, excuse me. 17-12 is their May. So they did play better in May. It's the 7-22 to start the season. That is such a huge hole. They're like the exact opposite. The Rays were 22-7 in April. So it's such a huge hole to climb out of that you wonder if even if they play 5 games above 500 again, they're still 5 games under.
That's a great point. How much is going to change between now and July 4th? We're 34 days from that.
Yeah.
How many games? Another 30 games. So,
I mean, the only way it changes is if you play 15 games above 500 for the month. And that seems unlikely because they got to go play the fucking Yankees coming up. And it's not like they're going to be inundated in the AL Central for the next month. They're going to come out of that and start playing more teams outside of the division again in June. So I don't know. It is what it is. AL Central will unfortunately, and I say that, I really mean that, unfortunately, while it's fun in a way, your team's not out of it, but in a way, it may keep things together longer than they should be.
That's a great point. It's almost like it's fool's gold. You keep reaching for this, but it's bullshit at the end. Meanwhile, you've wasted an opportunity where you could possibly trade away some expiring assets to make your team better in the future. And it seems like, to Rick's point, he doesn't have to do that today. Those decisions can be made at a later date. It was odd that he used July 4th as the next milestone, but the other thing he could be looking at is, even if the Sox, continue on this modestly positive pace that they've they've done the last month. Maybe the Twins collapse and fall back into their lap. Again, that would mean, they're in the division race and potentially even winning the division, but that could still be fool's gold, as I don't see the winner of the AL Central, no matter who it is, doing any damage in the playoffs, as they've proven to be inferior to almost every other division.
That's why maybe he did. Maybe July 4th was, if you look at it, June is basically outside the division. Maybe that's why he did say July 4th, because right now they've been playing better, but it's mostly been within the division. So now
I'm sure he's got a copy of the schedule, so I wouldn't be surprised.
It doesn't mean he's read it. Doesn't mean he's read it.
I wonder what he does all day. What's he doing up there?
What are you doing, Rick? But on that note, I think we've really talked about the White Sox way too long. I did not expect for that to go on that long.
No, that's good.
I apologize.
I hope you feel better. That worked out.
Not really.
You don't look like it, but
no.
Well, that moves us to the north side of Chicago, where
I'm
not sure how much better anyone feels at this point. What a bizarre time it's been since we last came to you. I think we recorded last Wednesday night. Subsequently, the Cubs got blown out essentially in a series against a very mediocre Cincinnati Reds team at home. Game 1 was a 9-0 drubbing. Games 2 and 3 were very similar, 8-5 losses with the bullpen, much maligned bullpen that we've discussed ad nauseum. Could not hold it together. Just an embarrassing show where you'd think that would be the time for the Cubs to get right against a mediocre team at home. At a desperate time where they need to get right, especially with the Rays coming into town and then going on a 10-game West Coast road trip. What happened was very, very different from there that I don't think anyone could have expected, as the Cubs actually beat the Rays 2-1 in the subsequent series, all one-run games, very competitive, with the best team in baseball, hands down, the best record in baseball. So I don't think anyone saw that coming. One of the premier performances we'll get to in Badass of the Week discussions was Marcus Stroman, complete game shutout of the Rays, which I don't think anyone saw coming. That was paramount to at least saving this week. We'll see how long it saves the Cubs season, but massive victory there, followed up by Kyle Hendricks' return, solid outing, and got the victory with a pretty damn good bullpen usage and performance. Today's game was really fun back and forth, but that fun was quickly subsided by the news that Justin Steele, the Cubs' best pitcher by far, even with the performance of Marcus Stroman, I'd say, had to leave the game early with forearm tightness.
Yeah.
Now,
that's the Carlos Rodon injury there.
As I mentioned earlier, A4 pulley ligament rupture. I don't think we've ever heard of with Eduardo Rodriguez, but we've all heard about forearm tightness, and we've all heard what that typically leads to. Of course, there'll be MRIs tonight, probably as we're speaking. So there's no definitive news. I think we'll know more tomorrow. The Cubs are, of course, downplaying it. They said it was just an abundance of caution. But Jesus Christ, when you see a guy have to leave the game early, he's had Tommy John before, as most major league pitchers have at some point in their lives, which is just astounding. But it just proves how unnatural it is for the human body to hurl a baseball at 100 plus miles an hour. What that does just is not meant for the weakest link, and that's usually the Tommy John ligament. So just real bummer of news there. Just when, after playing a really competitive series against the best team in baseball, it's just unbelievable that's how it turned out. So,
I mean, I was shocked.
Mm.
I wasn't shocked by Marcus Stroman's pitching performance, and I wasn't shocked that they were one-run games, but just like they were able to hold on and everything, because
the bullpen was pretty damn good the whole series. That's what I was surprised by.
Yeah, I mean, they're 10 and 18 in the month of May, And this is like the disturbing trend. So they've played 28 games in May and have scored 99 runs. Actually, this doesn't include today's game. So they played
23 today. Games. So yeah.
Okay, so 102, and they let up 4.
Yeah.
And they've allowed 140.
That doesn't work too well.
No, but in April, with a 500 record of 13-13, so that's 2 less games than they played. They scored 142 runs and allowed 103. But that goes back to the conversation.
That's interesting. Essentially, a lot of that's due to injuries, I would say. I mean, they've been missing Cody Bellinger for it's going to be a month. It sounds like. It sounded like at first he wasn't even going to go on the IL. Now it's a couple more weeks as he's been on. We got Nico Hoerner back after a few weeks off. So yeah, I see where you're going there, but
yeah, I think the schedule changed too for them.
It did. So. But yeah, they were essentially the worst team in the National League in the month of May. So but the weird news didn't stop there, as I've actually got some shit we couldn't make up.
Whoa, what do you got?
The Cubs this weekend released a much anticipated giveaway to the fans at Wrigley Field, a Billy Williams bobblehead.
Okay.
And somehow no one in the Cubs organization realized that said bobblehead had the wrong number on the back.
No.
I can tell you from experience. I've been in minor league baseball for approaching 15 years. I have been involved in the production of many a bobblehead, too many to count. I can tell you as the graphic designer, the first thing I would check is the number on the back of the bobblehead. Typically, you're a bobblehead connoisseur. I think you've got your own collection. I've got some over here in the corner as well. Typically, bobbleheads, my complaint is usually they don't look that much like the player. So the best way to identify said bobblehead is with the name on the back and certainly the number.
Number is pretty important, I think.
Somehow the Cubs lost this throughout the process, and it's astounding when you think about how many people had to miss this before it was actually given away to fans. First of all, the production, the initial designs, any kind of proofreading was happening at that point. With typically these are made in China, but you get proofs. You're sent photos of every angle conceivable. There's plenty of people that can look at this and make sure the number is right. I think what happened is the number 1 is kind of a default, like the default template for the body of the bobblehead, and then the actual numbers added later. Number 1 was the bobblehead that was given away. Obviously, that's nowhere close to number 26, the famous number 26 of Billy Williams that has actually been retired by the Cubs. He is a Hall of Famer, so he's hardly an unknown, obscure, tough to find photo where you could confirm what number he actually was.
He was Lando Calrissian in Star Wars.
Okay, different Billy Williams, but
that's Billy D. Williams. That's
yes. Right. But the idea that this got past those first barriers was even delivered to the Cubs, which I know at least in a minor league organization, the staff usually gets first dibs on the extras that are created, and a lot of them put them in their offices or whatever. People are looking at them, checking them out. They took them out of the boxes, I guess is my point. But not even at that point did anyone notice that it was the wrong number on the back of all 10,000 of these bobbleheads.
Do you think they're just saying Billy Williams is number 1 in their hearts?
Yeah, maybe that's what they're hoping to get away with. I think it just seems like if they had noticed it, they would have announced before, there's an error, or they would have inserted a certificate within the bobblehead box saying, you know what, we screwed up, but we will redo these, bring the certificate and the current bobblehead. We will replace it at a later date. But that was not announced until after the bobblehead's been given away. And apparently it finally came to their attention by, irate fans telling them this is fucked up. What are you doing? The announcement was made later that evening, and how they were apologizing and it should have never happened. I would agree with that. I'm just astounded. I cannot figure out how it could have possibly happened. How it could have. I can see how the error could possibly be made, but how it could be given out to fans without anyone in the front office anywhere noticing. It's astounding.
What's even worse, folks, is they actually used, as Smitty pointed out, like bobbleheads never really look like the player. They used leftover Sammy Sosa heads
that's
that were canceled from a bobblehead promotion due to Sammy's unceremonious leaving of the organization.
Okay. 15, 20 years ago, yes.
They had them left over.
Yeah. They're sitting in a crate someplace.
Get those Sosa heads out.
Yeah.
And make this guy number one.
It's, I don't really, I can't comprehend what happened. Obviously, it's not the biggest deal. It's just a weird, embarrassing
Pretty
moment.
Funny.
Yeah. It was definitely some shit I couldn't make up.
Oh, indeed. I didn't hear about that. That is fucking marketing department at its finest right there, man.
Yeah.
Fumbalaya.
Well, I think we should move away from this subject as fast as possible and off to the West Coast to talk about your first place in the A-hole standings, San Francisco Giants.
And again, we sent the notes out earlier today on the outline, and again, we jinxed the Giants. I said the Giants are over 500. Now, last week, they fell to a game below 500, but tonight, I can say they did lose to the Pirates, where they won 2 out of 3, but they are 500. They're at least.
You could have just not mentioned any of our notes, pre-show notes. No one would have ever known. You could have just said, "Hey, the Giants are 500." You could have taken the positive spin.
I think we're the cause of it. The loss today. I'm now believing in jinxes, even though I've
oh boy
stood pat that they don't exist. I believe we jinxed the Giants. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it was funny. It is funny that it happened 2 weeks in a row. That's why I brought it up. Everything's looking pretty darn good for these Giants. 17-13 in May. Similar to what we were just talking about with the Cubs, they've flipped it in May, where they've reduced the runs by 38 that they've allowed in the month of May. They've upped their production offensively. Everything is trending in the right direction. And to be quite honest, this is the NL West is theirs, along with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, to win. The Padres continue to be the great anomaly, on sort of reminiscent on some of those Yankees teams, where you put all this talent together on a team and they couldn't mesh and just could not produce winning baseball on a consistent basis. Really? Yeah, they're 5 games under 500. I mean, it's just I look at the Tampa Bay Rays, and then you look at the San Diego Padres, and it's almost like David and Goliath in a way, in how the roster construction is done. And Padres just keep throwing money at it, and it's not working. So
it's getting worse.
Yeah, it's left the division wide open. The Dodgers have had injury problems with their pitching staff and some position players now. So it could be a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be in the NL West this season. I've been watching Giants games. They've been fun to watch. Conforto, that's an interesting one, because I watched Conforto and I'm like, oh, he could have been on either one of my teams, there. But he is performing at a high level. Mike Yastrzemski continues to hit. Like, it wasn't like a weird anomaly season for that guy. So I don't know. It's fun to be excited about a team that does not have a losing record.
Yeah, I think that's been our theme all season. We brought it up with different teams, all 5 of our teams, except for, of course, the A's. But just finding reasons to be entertained at least, even though we know all the teams are very mediocre. To get to 500 is a massive milestone for any of our teams. So
yeah,
but just to have entertaining games is the low bar you and I are setting.
Yes,
just
we
something to keep our attention throughout the summer.
They'll get a measurement though. They get to play the Orioles. They host the Orioles this weekend, so we'll see. That'll be a good measuring stick. The Orioles are an offensive juggernaut, and they have solid pitching. I mean, they've pretty much played great baseball since, what do you say, like August, mid-July, have All-Star break on from last year, pretty much.
Yeah, like
they've played well over 500 since that point. So, yeah, it should be a fun series. We'll see how much damage the Orioles can do in the cavernous ballpark of San Francisco, except for one area, and that is McCovey Cove and the Splash Zone, which history was made this past week. I don't know if you heard this.
Oh, yes. I did not. It's the dramatic conclusion of our who will hit number 100?
No, not that.
Damn it.
It is the double splash, which has only been accomplished by one player in Major League Baseball history. That's Barry Bonds. He has hit 2 balls in one game into McCovey Cove. He's the only player to ever do it. He did it twice, once in 2000, once in 2002. Unfortunately, in this broadcast, in this podcast, this isn't a Giants player we get to talk about. No, we get to talk about the legendary Pirate Jack Suwinski. I never heard of him, but he, in a 14-3 drubbing or 14-4 drubbing by the Giants, he was the one highlight by sending not 1, but 2 balls into McCovey Cove in that embarrassing loss they had to the Giants this week. But it's interesting that he's a Pirate, since, we got 6 degrees of separation. Barry Bonds started out his career with the Pirates. So,
I thought you were going to say you hit it into the water in the high seas.
and matey, I've got the ball.
Wow.
No, but it's kind of interesting that it's Bond's ex team to, a member of the ex team to.
I did not put that together.
So, I did not. Yeah. So well done. Yeah, I think the 100th splash has happened. I think we just missed it.
I think we just totally missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, we totally missed it. Yeah, that happened a few weeks ago, I'm sure.
Well, we're clearly amateurs, so I'm not too surprised. So just another example of how amateurish we are with this.
But everyone listening out there, I think there's a very good chance that this entire podcast, when we meet again next week, will be under 500 again. So,
yeah. I would bet on it.
Here's to a great season of baseball.
Well, I'm going to briefly move across the bay to my fucking A's.
Exciting news this week. Exciting news.
Well, the best news. They won 2 games.
Oh,
they actually won 2 games since we last came to you. So now they're on pace to win 33 games this year and lose 129.
Excellent.
So yeah, congratulations, A's. But no, you're right. The real news that everyone's been talking about: renderings.
They exist.
Released some renderings of their potential stadium in Las Vegas. People love renderings. I love renderings as a graphic designer, but I think everybody loves renderings. See what the future stadiums look like. They always look fucking incredible. Sometimes they don't quite live up to that. The actual rendering, I think of the Rangers' new stadium. Actually,
oh God, yeah,
looked incredible. It was all glass roof, glass everything. Ended up looking like an aluminum tool shed now. But
yep.
Congrats, Rangers. The A's are excellent at releasing renderings. This is the final, or at least the latest in a series of renderings we've seen, mostly in Oakland. The last of which were at Howard Terminal in the East Bay near Oakland. Somehow I don't believe these will be the last. they've been really good at releasing these renderings of their new stadiums, but they haven't been really good at closing any deals, as we've seen for 20 plus years. As again, we're still looking for a final resting place for the current Oakland A's. These renderings were released as part of a public presentation to Nevada lawmakers, to the first time that the A's were actually making their formal proposal for this new stadium deal, essentially begging for $400 million from Nevada taxpayers. What was odd about this is neither owner John Fisher nor the president, who I think it's Dave Kaval, maybe his name escapes me at this point, but neither of them decided to show up to this meeting. The very first time they were presenting to Nevada, the legislature of Nevada, like I said, essentially begging for public funding. It was Monday, so the only thing I can think of is they couldn't break their Memorial Day barbecue plans to get out to Vegas for this momentous occasion. I thought that was bizarre. First time presenting this. So the presentation itself, since it was publicly streamed, came under some scrutiny. And in fact, one of my favorite sports business writers, Maury Brown from Forbes magazine, actually covered this extensively in an article. And I pulled a quote that he had specifically about the presentation that the A's gave to the Nevada legislature. I think you've got it pulled up over there.
I do. Let me read that for everybody. A parade of incorrect historical numbers, outlandish projections, and creative financing plans, much of which had holes blown in it. Maury Brown, Forbes magazine.
That was actually essentially what the presentation was. So I won't get into details because that minutia can be described by professionals such as Maury, but I'll take his word for it. It's horseshit what they gave him in the first round of presentations, begging for this money and trying to land their team in a new city. That might be the reason why the president and owner didn't show up, because their presentation was full of embarrassing lies and inaccuracies and everything else. So just another comical step on this unbelievably long and arduous journey to a new fucking stadium for those fucking A's.
They'll be like, I didn't approve that. I wasn't even there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the strategy could possibly be, but it's not too difficult to poke holes in anything. You can't lie directly to the legislature and think you're going to get away with it, especially when you're asking for public funds. So maybe you can get away with it. Maybe that's how the government really works. We're just peering into the underbelly and how these things actually work out. But very strange. So unless there's more news about that, I don't see how I'll be bringing up the A's. I'm not sure what the next step in this legislative process is, but I think this might be a little bit drawn out, much as the whole process in Oakland has been. So we'll see.
Next steps there, come back with real numbers.
Yeah, that might help. Well, I think from that negativity, I want to move over to our favorite segment, our new segment this year, our Badass of the Week.
Boom, boom.
It's a little bit different week. Typically, recently, we've had all sorts of incredible offensive performances with 5 or 6 home runs in a week. OPS is over 1,400 with Christopher Morel last week. This week is a little bit down offensively, but we still had two position players we wanted to highlight, and we definitely have a pitcher we need to highlight here. So I think you've got the stats pulled up over there.
I do. The aforementioned Romy Gonzalez of the White Sox has had 3 home runs, 4 RBIs, 4 runs, 1 stolen base, and a 9.52 OPS.
Yeah, that's why you're specifically why there's so much consternation on what to do when Elvis Andrus comes back. So yeah, Romy. I made fun of him when he first got called up. I think I called him Rolo Tomasi.
Yeah, you did.
Because he was just such a nondescript guy. I'd never heard of him, but he's putting the offensive numbers together, and he's playing solid defense. So it's gonna be hard to get him off that roster at this point.
Yeah, I think it'd be foolish, but hey, it's the White Sox, so wait and see. Up next, Detroit Tigers Zach Short We've got 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 runs, 1 stolen base, and a 1.139 OPS. So
Zach Short has been brought up in this podcast before, but I never thought I'd bring him up in the badass of the week. He had an incredible week, including against your White Sox with some key late RBIs. Zach, I only know him because before his Tigers career, because he's on the Compound podcast with Ian Happ. And we've referenced him multiple times. So they were teammates during the pandemic when they were all with the Cubs. Short was subsequently traded to the Tigers, but they've kept their relationship, of course, and they've kept their podcast going. It's actually on the John Boy Network.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So it's a fun podcast. It definitely gives you an insider perspective. It works out great for me because it's a Tigers perspective and a Cubs perspective too, but it tells you kind of about the inner workings and the daily lives of major league players. And it's pretty cool. There's been lots of interesting news with all those guys, over the years. So it's cool to see Zach, kind of, I feel like I've kind of followed him on his journey, and now he's a real contributor to the Tigers, which I never thought of him as more as, a utility guy that, can pinch hit here and there, play solid defense. But now he's becoming an offensive threat, and it's cool to see. And you hear about his thought process, and specific, they'll go back like next week, whatever the latest podcast is, he'll be talking about this past weekend, what happened, what he was thinking at the time, how it all worked out. And you get some really cool insight. So I would highly recommend, at least for Tigers and Cubs fans or anyone that likes to hear the inner workings of current Major League Baseball players' minds, check out the Compound podcast.
Nice. Yeah, that is a good podcast. I've only listened to it a few times, but it's freaking solid. You can tell they have fun doing it.
Yeah, there's just a couple dudes, I mean, kind of like us, just with way more credentials,
more clout. Yes.
Yeah, just shooting the shit.
And last but not least, Marcus Stroman, 1 hit complete game shutout against the, as you point out, the best team record-wise in baseball right now, the Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah, Tampa Bay Rays. 8 Ks and only 1 walk. I think that 1 walk, he sucks. He walked someone. I'm just kidding. But the Rays, I'm just gonna say something for.
You're gonna downplay the Rays. That's interesting.
Well, the Rays have fallen off a bit. Okay. They've fallen back into the middle. They have the same record as the Giants in May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Yankees had a 19-9 May. Rangers 18-9. Astros 17-9. So they've come back down to earth. They're league. So, it's not like they're playing the same team that everyone was playing in April. That's all.
Okay. No, they do still have the best record in baseball.
Yes.
Yeah, to your point, that was built up in early May or early April, throughout April. So I get what you're saying, but
yeah,
I don't think it's too difficult to call them one of the best teams in baseball.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
There's my little
caveat. The Tigers have a better May record than the Rays.
No, so I wouldn't even have guessed that, but I don't know. We haven't had a pitcher that had a complete game shutout this year, or a complete game even. So I thought that was remarkable. The timing of it couldn't have been more critical, as I mentioned earlier, for the Cubs coming off of a horrendous series sweep loss to the Reds.
Yeah,
with such a gauntlet coming up with, this is the first game of the Rays series, which you thought was going to be a disaster. And then, like I said, they're on the road now for 10 days and on the West Coast against the Padres, which we'll see. The Angels, I think, who just had a fun time at Sox Park this week, and then your San Francisco Giants ending up the road trip, I believe. So I don't know. I would like. I think the 2 offensive performances that we're highlighting this week aren't quite up to the level we've been at for most of the season, considering the other players we've been giving it to, with Luis Robert and Christopher Morel, Cody Bellinger several weeks ago. I just think this pitching performance is unmatched. We haven't seen, like I said, a complete game. You never see complete games anymore. The 8Ks and 1 hit and 1 walk. I forgot about the 1 walk. That's brutal, but what can you do? So what are your thoughts? Where do you want to go with this final?
I was leaning towards Zach Short. I don't disagree with your logic. Did he pitch he only pitched once within our week time frame, or you just want to call out this one performance?
It's just this one performance, yeah.
No, this is all he pitched over for Badass of the Week. This is the only performance he had this week.
Correct. Or? Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. All right. I mean, I don't know.
It was Monday.
I'm not gonna like fall on a sword. If I'm fine with making him Marcus Stroman. That'll be good for his trade value at the trade deadline this year if we make a Badass of the Week.
The only issue you might have beyond that is this would be his second Badass of the Week. He'd be the first repeat Badass of the Week we've had this season, or in the history of Badass of the Week. So I don't think that should preclude him from winning again. But
no, he had that incredible fucking run. I mean, no one could deny him Badass of the Week at that point. I mean, that
was when we first started. I think we started like the 3rd week of the season, so we were combining 3 outings for everybody, which there were several great contenders that time. So it was a little bit different, at least. But you're not going to fall on your sword. Go ahead.
No, he also had a pretty good outing against the Mets on Wednesday of last week.
I think we included that in because we recorded
Wednesday night. Was it in the day? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's not like he's pitched bad this year.
Okay. Well, we're talking about this week is all. So it'd be cool to give it to Zach Short, but I think that would look kind of odd by the end of the year that he was a badass of the week with only 2 home runs.
You think he's going to have 2 home runs all year?
I'm not sure. Yeah, that might be it. But he had one hell of a
even
week,
more reason to give it to him.
Should we just give it to? I think you're fighting for. I like it. All right, that's fine. I'm kind of shocked that we're not going to give a complete game shutout pitcher that our badass league, but let's do it. It's our fucking podcast. We can do whatever we want.
We're going to put the Detroit Tigers hat for Christ's sake.
I know you're fighting harder than I am. So, all right, we're doing it. Zach Short, you are our badass of the week.
Yeah, Zach, keep it up, buddy. Just not this weekend.
Yeah, look what you did. He's going to be full of confidence now. He's a reigning badass of the week, marching into Chicago.
I'm just using this to set up commentary for next week when he goes like 0 for 17 this weekend or something. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
Well played by you. Well, I think we can wrap up this week with a quick aesthetics.
Oh, God, really?
Well, it was big news in Detroit, and it's going to be big news in Chicago eventually. But
the D is gone?
No. The Detroit Tigers announced and revealed an advertising patch on their left sleeve. We've seen it a little bit across Major League Baseball. Really executed poorly, I think, in most cases. I think the Astros have an enormous, weird-ass patch. I don't even know what the brand is, but it
says like meth or something on it.
It clashes with the uniform for sure. The Mets are in a similar situation with some bank, I think. Just an ugly logo, ugly patch. It just doesn't work. The Padres, they have a Motorola, huge Motorola. They call it the Bat Wings. Their M logo, it looks like bat wings. That one's obnoxious. The Tigers actually, I think, did a really good job with this.
You barely notice it.
It was, yeah, exactly. It was huge news in Detroit. Of course, I brought this up many times. The very clean home uniform for the Detroit Tigers is sacred in the state of Michigan because it is so simple. It is perfection, I would say. It has also been the same uniform they've had for over 100 years, pretty much. It has remained unchanged. I went on a rant. I think maybe the first aesthetics we ever had. I went on a diatribe about the Nike logo appearing on all 30 Major League uniforms.
Yikes. Yeah.
Now, I didn't really have a problem with it anywhere except for the Detroit uniform, which was so clean and pristine and void of elements other than the logo on the chest that the Nike logo is defiling it essentially. But of course, every uniform has that now, so you kind of don't see it anymore. But this Meyer logo on the left sleeve is even less noticeable than the Nike logo on the chest. It is small for one thing, which is great. They changed the Meijer logo color to Detroit's dark navy, which is
Yes.
another great move. The Meijer logo is red with blue dots over the I and J. So for them to agree to change their branding to flow in nicely with the Tigers is really remarkable, and I think it's great. And literally, people were really up in arms when it was announced, and it was kind of, I don't remember any previous announcement that it was coming. Like all of a sudden, the Tigers just released it on their website with some corny video about how a grocery store chain is integral to the fabric of the Detroit Tigers culture in the state of Michigan, and which that kind of horse shit we love to make fun of when we go over the Nike City Connect uniforms and other shit. But the way they executed, I really don't have a problem with, and I don't think anyone's brought it up since the first day. I mean, people had trouble just with the idea of it, but now you wouldn't even notice.
I mean, I basically thought it was like when in the Natural when they sewed on the lightning patch. They won 3 out of 4 from the White Sox. I mean, it was giving them fucking power like the lightning bolt.
The power of Meijer. There are Meijer stores in Illinois, but are you familiar with Meijer at all?
I shop at Meijer sometimes.
Okay. I think it must be out in the suburbs, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's in the burbs.
I didn't notice it hardly in my
proper.
Okay. I grew up like Meijer was a staple of mid-Michigan, at least. I mean, there's 2 Meijers within 5 miles of my house right now. They're all over the place. So I always thought of it as a Michigan brand, so that's kind of cool. Just that it doesn't feel like some faceless corporate entity that just dropped in and started paying the Tigers for it. The other part of it is, I heard the point made that they're probably going to make, the estimate is probably about $10 million for this patch. The Tigers are going to rake in. I don't know if that's per year or what that estimate was, but the argument would be made, if people are really up in arms about this, why don't we start up a GoFundMe to raise $10 million for them not to put the patch on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
if people are really that upset about it, put your money where your mouth is. But really, like I said, it's died down quickly. So
it's the most tasteful patch I've seen thus far.
It does beg the question, as now that Pandora's box has been opened, and we will be seeing, I guarantee, logos on both the White Sox and Cubs. What do you think those brands might actually end up being, and how could they? What would you, if you know it has to happen? Is there a brand you would like to see over others, or is there something that you wouldn't want to see on a White Sox uniform? I'm kind of springing this on you, so it might
I wouldn't want to see the guaranteed rate logo with the arrow pointing down. That's already prominent enough in the stadium.
I don't think I've seen an example of that where the stadium sponsor is also the uniform sponsor. So I think they diversify a little bit more than that. So I don't think you have to worry about that, but you never know. I think that could be.
The ultimate would be to have Ricobene's be the sponsor, but they probably can't afford it. But that's the Italian steak sandwich shop.
I was wondering if you're going to go
Bridgeport. that would be the ultimate.
I thought you might go hyper local like that, but they might not have the advertising budget for it.
No, they probably don't. But I would say, I really feel like one of these two is really the most fitting patches, and it would be a Miller Lite patch. I hate to say it, but it's true. Like they were only out of the park for like 4 years maybe before they, bullied their way back in, and it's fine. It's like how it's supposed to be to me. That's what I grew up with.
I might be corrected wrong, but I believe beer sponsors are not allowed on the uniform. I think that's one category that might be. We talked about it when this first came up. This might have been 2 years ago, where the idea that patches were coming, but so you might not be able to get Miller Lite on there.
Vienna beef would be the other one. Everyone goes to the park for the Polishes and the hot dogs. The line's always long. Everyone loves it. Put the fucking Vienna beef on there. I mean, come on.
That'd be great. I think they're probably going to go a little bit bigger corporate than that, but the Vienna beef would be fantastic. I think the cool thing with the White Sox is it wouldn't be hard for any corporate brand to say you can use our black and white version of the logo to go with the Sox colors.
Right, exactly. Everyone has one. So
I think if they are able to do that, I think any corporate logo would look pretty good in your team colors already. So again, that's part of why the Tigers and Meyer combination works so well. So for the Cubs, I think it's pretty obvious who's coming to the sleeve patch near you.
Bison Dogs?
Actually, it's ironic because the Cubs have, at least until recently, they've always had patches on both sleeves. They've had the Cubs C logo with a bear stomping around in it.
Oh, yeah.
And then they've had the National League logo on the other arm. And that has conspicuously been absent for the last couple seasons, I think in anticipation of this advertisement. But I think you're going to see the home sponsor of their spring training facility, Sloan, be on the sleeves. And the best part is Sloan is the automatic toilet manufacturers where they flush themselves. Yes. They're a toilet and plumbing company, which I think would be fucking hilarious to see on the sleeve of the Cubs. But
it'd be funny on any baseball team, to be honest. I mean,
there's something that just feels like, because they're probably looking to get more exposure with the Cubs themselves, other than just their spring training facility.
Right.
You hear ads for them all the time on Cubs radio, at least, but I think I could see them trying to get a larger footprint. Them, or some hedge fund or some financial institution that the Cubs seem to be in bed with. I think those would make sense, or at least that's probably something that would be coming. I'm not sure I'd be fired up about any of those, but
all I can say is there's one sponsor that is, I know they're in the White Sox. I haven't been to a Cubs game this year, so I don't know if they have any coverage in there, but I don't want He Gets Us patches on my fucking team's jersey.
I did notice those. I think this week against the Angels, the White Sox game, He Gets Us all over the place in that stadium. And I noticed it when we were at the ball game last month.
Yeah. They got a lot of, they must have a lot of money because they advertise on TV during the games too.
Jesus isn't poor. Let's put it that way. The Christians have some cash to throw around there to spread their message.
I'd also think it's probably, I bet in the rules, they probably wouldn't allow, if they're not, I get not allowing beer because I feel like they think everyone would just have a beer patch then because there's so much money there.
Right.
Like in the alcohol industry, like everyone would just have some sort of alcohol. But I also would hope they would dismiss any sort of like religious or.
I mean, the White Sox are letting it in the ballpark already. So again, I mean, the irony is everyone holds the baseball uniform sacred, but could you have a religious patch on that sacred uniform?
No.
I think it would definitely be a conversation piece, and He Gets Us would get that much more publicity than they already are getting. So we're giving them. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see how that turns out. They've got. Their ads were all over the place in the game I was watching the other night. So they're like, the colors are black, white, and like fluorescent green, I think.
You're like yellow, yeah.
Is it yellow? Okay, maybe I was looking at that wrong.
But
I was thinking that might be the same colors as Southpaw, your mascot there. So there might be some synergy.
Yeah, he is Christ. Southpaw is Christ. But He Gets Us has got they must be out of here because I was at the United Center for a concert and I saw their shit up there too. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't get away from them.
Well, I thought that was at least worth bringing up as we do a now weekly aesthetics segment. And it was certainly news in Detroit when it happened. And it's going to be news one way or the other in Chicago.
You did spark a memory of mine of something I sent you earlier this week. So, and this is along the same lines, but Smitty mentioned how we like to make fun of the Nike Connect and their long explanations of what everything means on the jersey. I'm quite fearful as I text Smitty that they have created a monster within the sports fashion industry because I sent him an ad that New Era has decided to put out of the Father's Day cap that, like Nike Connect, explains every detail, which is only 3, but had to take the time to explain the 3 details on a cap, and they'd have done it for every team. This has not happened before.
Father's Day needs an explanation. Like,
yeah,
do we not understand?
And it was reminiscent of like weird shit, just like there's blue under the cap, like under the brim of the cap.
Which is, everyone knows that's prostate awareness colors.
Yes.
Prostate cancer awareness. Prostate cancer awareness.
The Sox logo is
aware
in blue.
Of the prostate.
Sox logo is in blue to represent Father's Day. No shit. Thank you.
There's people getting paid lots of cash at Nike over there to write those explanations.
Well, no, but then I'm thinking like it's over at New Era. They're like, oh man, we got to piggyback on this Nike shit.
Oh, at New Era.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do these. Let's start explaining our hats to everyone.
You and I are mocking this. I see those explanations mocked everywhere on social media. I'm not sure who's really into it, so I don't know where this is coming
where's
from.
The data's coming to do it?
Maybe there's a group that absolutely loves this. The silent majority absolutely loves these explanations. Maybe we're just off base and too tuned into Twitter and the snarkiness there. But I guess we'll see if these continue. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have.
Yeah, I think we can wrap this episode 126 of In the Hole, episode 28, of course, of Sox Type Thing. Unless we forgot anything. We've been doing this for hour and a half, or past an hour and a half now.
Hour 45.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we can wrap this up. You can find us in the meantime on social media. I'm at Major League A-Holes on Twitter. Pete over there is at Sox Type Thing. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check out our YouTube at, I think it's youtube.com/Major League A-Holes. You can find our merchandise at aesthetics.shop, ASSTHETICS. You can find all these little segments I break up from these podcasts. You don't have to watch or listen to this whole hour and 45 minutes. You can find those on our website at soxtypething.com or majorleagueaholes.com. And you can find these podcasts anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. So with that, we can declare this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.
Word Hole Media.